right here on CBS.
Who will be the ultimate survivor? The adventure begins CBS May 31st.
48 hours. We take you there. They were newlyweds.
They lit up the room as they came in together.
Murdered in their small hometown.
They were so alive and so happy, and then somebody just wiped that all out.
Eyewitness testimony convicted these two men.
They're murderers.
But both men insist they had nothing to do with the crime.
Did you have anything at all to do with the deaths of Dyke and Karen Rhoads?
No, absolutely not.
Now, this college professor and his rookie reporters are taking up their cause.
It struck me almost from the start that this was a likely miscarriage of justice.
I think there were a lot of things that didn't add up.
Susan Spencer reports how these student sleuths
hit the road.
Is it all right if we stop by and talk to you again real quick?
uncovered new witnesses.
With the house located just 100 yards away, we would have heard something.
What caught my eye was they had trench coats on in July.
And new evidence.
I heard this voice shrieking into my telephone. We've got it, we've got it.
Will it be enough to set these men free?
The truth is still out there.
A 48 hours mystery. Impossible mission. It's the kind of crime that makes big news in a small town. Authorities move quickly to close the case, and officially they do. But years after the headlines fade, many people remain convinced that the whole story, the real story, has never been told. Good evening. It was a terrible crime. A young couple, newlyweds, murdered in their home. Law enforcement did its job. Despite a lack of physical evidence, two men were convicted. One got life in prison, the other a death sentence. But was the job done right? For a college professor and his students, outsiders really, there are serious doubts. And so they are digging deeper into the case, going behind the headlines. Their assignment, to find out if two juries got it wrong and whether the real killers are still out there. Susan Spencer reports tonight on what seems like an impossible mission, to unlock the truth.
Behind these concrete prison walls, killers' claims of innocence are commonplace. But once in a great while,
as long as I breathe, I'll never accept what's been done to me.
one just might ring true. Behind these ivy-covered walls at Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism,
We would like to know why it happened.
one class wonders if justice has been served.
We still aren't sure who did it.
My goal, which I think is the highest goal of our profession, is for them to find the truth.
Professor David Protas has led classes on that search before, investigating past crimes, producing evidence, which in 4 cases has helped free innocent men.
After more than 16 years on death row, Anthony Porter was finally free to publicly show.
Well, this is not your normal homicide, and that's
Now, Protas has a new case and a new class.
We've never dealt with a murder before.
20-year-old Kirsten Searer and 21-year-olds Diane Hay, Greg Johnson,
Oh, okay. We'll be there in like 2 or 3 minutes.
and Krista Larson
We're gonna have to go back again.
are about to step back in time. 14 years.
Whoever committed this murder pretty much committed a perfect murder. I think the truth has always sort of been there, and the pieces have always been there, and now it's just kind of trying to figure out how it all fits together.
It may be the biggest story they'll ever cover.
It's become, I don't know, an obsession, if you will.
Sleeping and dreaming about this, eating and thinking about this.
The investigation of the grisly murders of newlyweds Dyke and Karen Rhoads.
The pastor who married them, there were 3 things that struck him about Dyke and Karen, and they were their smiles and how they lit up the room as they came in together, and the love love that they had for their families and the love that they had for each other.
Dyke's sister Andrea was 14 when her brother died, just days before his 28th birthday.
I think I like these wedding pictures the best.
Dyke's younger brother, Tony Rhoads.
It's been 14 years ago this July, and it still is as real as if it was yesterday.
That's how Karen looked when we met her.
In the summer of 1984, Dyke met 24-year-old Karen Spessard. Pretty, athletic, a kindred spirit.
She had a beautiful laugh.
Both were college graduates. Dyke worked in landscaping, and Karen was an office assistant.
Once he met her, he was in love.
The couple married on March 22nd, 1986.
I remember Dyke's smile when Karen came in the church and he turned around to see her for the first time. I remember that. I think I always will.
But less than 4 months after that happy day,
155.
a fire engulfed their home.
My dad came over at 6 o'clock in the morning, I never will forget that, and told me that they had been killed. He told me about their house burning, so we just naturally assumed that they had died from the fire. And it wasn't until 2 o'clock that afternoon that we found out that they had been stabbed or murdered.
You just can't explain how that feels when you see these two people that were so alive and they were so happy and so ready to take on the world. And then somebody just, they wiped that all out in a matter of minutes.
Well, I feel really bad knocking on their door and saying, hi, we're working on a class project. Do you want to talk about this? Because
now, almost 14 years later,
you've interviewed how many people, do you think?
Oh, goodness.
50?
50, more than that. Probably.
These student sleuths are reopening the case.
There's something going on that's not coming out.
Recreating the crime scene in their mind's eye. It was the 4th of July holiday weekend.
Dyke and Karen were sleeping in bed. The people came in. They attacked Dyke first, stabbing him in the back. Karen had time to wake up, maybe grab her glasses off a nightstand, and then was stabbed herself, mostly in the chest.
Both of them have been stabbed more than 25 times. There was blood all over the room, on their clothes, on the bed, and there was a fire that had been started in the bedroom.
And then they set a second fire downstairs to try to destroy evidence.
The whole side of the house is just scorched.
The students begin their search for the truth here in Paris, Illinois, where it all happened so long ago. Their assignment, find the killers of Dyke and Karen Rhoads. That may strike some here as a bit odd. After all, 2 men already are behind bars for this crime.
Want to make comment?
In 1987, juries handed down guilty verdicts to 41-year-old Herb Whitlock, part-time construction worker and small-time drug dealer.
That's why the trials are mentioned.
And his pal, 35-year-old Randy Steidle, who also worked construction and had several convictions for assault. The motive, prosecutors said, a drug deal gone bad.
It struck me almost from the start that this was a likely miscarriage of justice. Look, this young couple was tragically stabbed over 50 times. These men would have been covered in blood. There would have been blood in their automobiles. There would have been blood on their clothes. There would have been hair, fiber, something that linked them to the crime scene. Nothing did.
Professor Protas's skepticism, incredibly, is shared even by Dyke Rhoads' own family.
We weren't 100% convinced that they were the ones who did it.
Their doubt is based both on the lack of physical evidence and on the supposed motive.
The prosecutor contends to this day this was a drug deal gone bad.
Yeah.
Is that something that you can maybe accept?
Absolutely not.
Well, did Dyke use drugs?
He had been an occasional pot smoker.
What about Karen?
No,
absolutely
never. But there's a big difference in somebody who's an occasional pot smoker and somebody who gets involved with a drug deal that's gone bad and is going to cost you your life. The truth is still out there, in my view.
If that's the case, and the 2 wrong guys are behind bars, that means the actual killer or killers are roaming free. Number one, you're not going to stay anywhere in the immediate vicinity of the town. Number 2, you're not going to tell any of the sources you talk to where you're staying.
All right, let's hit the road.
Number 3, I don't want you to stay in the same place 2 nights in a row.
Pedal to the metal, baby.
For the next 6 months,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the students will spend most weekends on the road.
This drive is so long.
My mom makes me call her a lot. She gets nervous.
Making the 180 Chicago to the small town of Paris.
We even have some that are older than this.
Their mission? To plow through police reports, court records, and track down new leads.
Hey, is it all right if we stop by and talk to you again real quick?
And old witnesses, wherever they can find them. They'll document their investigation on videotape.
Watch out, Diane Sawyer, huh?
As they try to find holes in what would appear to be an airtight case. After all, there were 2 eyewitnesses to this crime.
You held her down while they stabbed her.
Yep. That's next.
Hi, honey. I've asked you here tonight to witness a phenomenon that has never before been seen in this house. It's called cooking.
Cooking?
Delicious food that's good for you.
Pizza delivery boy's gonna be with his other families tonight.
Skillet Sensations from Lean Cuisine. Fresh-cooked, complete meals, including meat, with all the prep work done for you.
This is a complete meal. Normal families eat them all the time.
Skillet Sensations from Lean Cuisine. It's not just lean, it's cuisine.
It likes to be touched. It loves to be hugged.
Dove knows your skin is important, even the skin under your arms.
I always use Dove, so I tried their new deodorant. I'm a single mom, and I run around like 3 people, and I'm still fresh because I do my little sniff. Smelling good still.
New maximum strength Dove antiperspirant made with 1/4 moisturizer. It cares for your skin.
The moisturizer feels soft and smooth, and it disappears on my skin.
It's strong protection with a touch of Dove.
That deodorant got it going on.
There are lots of tempting computers out there, so how do you choose? This one looks appetizing, but does it come with a free color printer? This one looks good, but does it include internet service? Now, a Gateway Select PC comes with a 700 megahertz AMD Athlon processor, free Canon printer, a year of AOL included, and you can trade it in towards the purchase of a new one in 2 years, all for just $1,299. So, come and get it. Call 1-800-GATEWAY.
Introducing the all-new Chevy Tahoe. Now offering a 3rd row of seats that's light and easier to handle than anything else out there. It's nowhere near anything. The new Chevy Tahoe, like a rock.
For Judge Amy Gray, it's the moment she's waited for.
The divorce is final?
But is she ready to let go? Plus, is a simple lapse of memory a sign of something serious?
The forgetfulness, the irritability are all classic symptoms.
All new Judging Amy, CBS Tuesday.
Okay, so the first bar we're gonna go to is Boogie's.
For 2 months now, the 4 Northwestern journalism students have lived every college kid's dream assignment.
We've been to the Friendly so many times.
Staying out late.
We don't need to close it down again this time.
Hitting the bars.
Sea breeze and a Bud Light.
Chugging beer. And all with the blessing of their professor, David Protas.
My feeling was that the way an investigation like this begins is by becoming part of the culture of the town.
Because understanding Paris, Illinois may be key to understanding who killed Dyke and Karen Rhoads 14 years ago.
Boy, Dyke's smiling big, guys.
And whether the men convicted of this crime really are guilty.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Were they surprised when you told them that you thought they ought to go to Paris and hang out at the bars?
Yeah. Actually, my dean was surprised.
I'll bet.
Here we are at the sign marking the entrance to Paris. Here we are at the murder scene. Here we are at the Friendly Tavern.
What was your impression of Paris the first time you saw it?
The first thing I thought is I could understand why this murder was such a big deal in a town like this. It's very innocent, you know. On the outside, it looks like your average small Midwestern town. It fit every stereotype that I had in my head.
Good heifer right here. I'm over here, 84, now 5, now 6, now 7.
And I could understand why 13, 14 years later, this murder is still the biggest thing that's happened here.
So to get to McDonald's, turn right, but don't go down High Street, angle left onto Crawford.
Weekend after weekend.
Nobody's home. Nobody's home.
The students have struggled to track down new leads and old witnesses.
I want to go knock on his door, but...
Do you really?
Oh, I do.
A lot of people in Paris in 1986 are still in Paris today.
When you went in the bars, you would occasionally see some of the same people that Dyke and Karen Rhoads.
Oh, all the time.
Definitely, definitely.
The people that I talk to think that they're doing a great thing.
Rita Knight, owner of the popular Friendly Tavern, says she's always wondered about the Rhoads murder.
To see somebody that isn't from this town, that knows nothing about it, get that involved with it and take it that seriously, I think that's great.
Not everyone in town agrees.
This clearly was the biggest case that I ever handled, and to my knowledge, probably certainly the biggest case, you know, of the century, perhaps.
Michael McFatridge was the prosecutor.
What's your view of this group of Northwestern students?
That's fine. It's certainly interesting. I think when the dust settles, they'll be very disappointed because, in fact, Whitlock and Steidel are guilty. I mean, they're murderers.
But in 1986, the young prosecutor had a tough time building a case against Whitlock and Steidel.
There's probable cause or reason to hold the Mr. Steidel and Mr. Whitlock for several counts of murder.
With few leads and no good forensic evidence, the investigation into the murders of Dyke and Karen Rhoads went absolutely nowhere for 2 months. But then police got an amazing break. An actual eyewitness came forward. An eyewitness who put Herb Whitlock and Randy Steidel at the scene of the crime.
I believe in September of '86, Darrell Harrington came forward.
And who was Darrell Harrington?
He went from being, you know, the town drunk on a bicycle to being someone who owns a fleet of automobiles, has a successful drywall business.
He's been described to me as the town drunk.
No, at the time, that would be a fair assessment, would be that he was a big drinker.
Are you aware that your voice is being recorded?
Yeah.
Harrington uses an artificial larynx. We've added a voice to repeat his words to make them clearer.
Yelling and screaming.
In this taped statement to
Funny
police,
yelling and screaming.
Harrington said he woke up in Randy Steidel's car
Apparently somebody was damn scared about something.
outside the home of Dyke and Karen Rhoads.
I could hear a woman screaming and a man saying, "Please don't hurt me or kill me," or something like that.
After using his credit card to jimmy open the lock, Harrington says he went inside and up the stairs, where Steidel confronted him.
Darrell, did you notice anything different about Randy?
He had blood on him.
Did he have anything with him?
He had a knife. Then I looked up and saw a body on the bed.
He knew certain things, at least in our minds, were not things that the town drunk would know.
Town drunk or not, Harrington was key to the investigation,
You don't know nothing, but I wasn't down there.
Yes, you were.
even going undercover to try to get Randy Steidel to confess.
You trying to tell me that I am the one that killed them people?
I seen you.
I haven't done nothing. You're nuts. You seen somebody else.
With Harrington, but without a confession, McFatridge was stuck.
We were not going to indict or charge somebody until we had a reasonable chance of conviction. So we had one eyewitness and with no corroborative evidence.
But 3 months later, that changed when, incredibly, a second eyewitness came forward with that much-needed corroborating evidence. Deborah Reinbold, a self-described drug addict and alcoholic, told police she'd not only seen it all, she'd provided the weapon, even helped with the killing.
It gets worse and worse as the years go by.
Today, Deborah Reinbold says she's clean and sober. But in 1986,
You know, I always drank, I always drugged.
And she'd been drinking the night of the murders.
What happened that night?
Big mess. Everything went wrong. I mean, they were just going to go down there and try to scare Dyke, and then things just got out of hand.
How well did you know Herb and Randy at the time this happened?
I knew him, just through the drug thing.
You can remember seeing them stab Dyke?
Mm-hmm.
Both of them?
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening with Karen in the meanwhile?
She's trying to get up off the bed, and I had went over there and was telling her that everything would be okay.
You held her down while they stabbed her?
Yep.
Where did this knife come from?
It was my husband's knife, and they wanted it.
Reinbold's story impressed police, especially when she accurately described a broken lamp found in the Rhoads' bedroom.
So it was broken before they were killed, or while they were being killed?
Yeah.
2 separate juries believed both the eyewitness accounts. Herb Whitlock got life, Randy Steidle the death penalty.
Someday, everything that went on behind closed doors will be published in the press.
Despite Prosecutor McFatridge's recommendation for no jail time, Deborah Reinbold served 2 years in prison for concealing a homicide.
The homicide death of Dyke.
Harrington was never charged. Coming up next, the students get a break.
It did not happen the way that the state's witnesses said that it did.
And the convicted killers speak out.
I defy anybody to say I was proved guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Interrupt this commercial to bring you another commercial.
Cool.
Advantage is the fastest flea control.
Wow.
That's right, baby. It stops fleas from biting in minutes. Now that's fast.
Advantage rocks.
It's awesome. Now back to our other commercial. And it kills those fleas with ease. It's fast. Advantage kills the fleas. Advantage kills the fleas. Get it from your vet.
The heat that was your hair's enemy is now its best friend. Thermosilk. Need a little time far from the maddening crowd? A cafe experience awaits you with new cafe creams. Golden cookies draped with fudge and covered with luscious cream. Perfect for dunking. New cafe creams from Nabisco. A cozy little place in your day.
So this kid's been out sick now for 3 days, and the test is right around the corner. Was I born yesterday? So I said, Billy, if you don't come to class, you don't get to pass.
Of course, you could always just email him the assignment, hyperlink the relevant sources, and have him download the text.
The Microsoft Classroom Teacher Network. With internet software that teaches, everyone can learn to better use the web.
This is how you exterminate a bat!
Batman, this is Karen Boyd from OnStar. I got a signal your airbag went off. Should I send for an ambulance?
Everything's fine. Send the police to 4th and Main.
I'll contact them right away.
He'll never learn.
Tonight.
What are you
Tonight at 11, fire has students sleeping in at one area school, but will they have to make up the days?
Tonight on KDK TV News at 11.
AccuWeather, the world's weather leader, is the authority trusted to help make decisions that impact our daily lives. With more meteorologists under one roof than any company on Earth. When it comes time to plan for the important moments in your world, count on AccuWeather and Storm Tracker 2000 on KDK TV. Simply the most accurate.
Illinois' century-old Menard Prison grips the bank of the Mississippi like a fortress. It's home now to Herb Whitlock, sentenced to life in prison in the Rhoads murders, and to Randy Steidle, sentenced to death.
I defy anybody to say I was proved guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
More than a decade in prison has changed Paris's former good old boys.
I was pretty wild on the weekends. Worked all week and partied on the weekends. That was about my lifestyle back then.
Parties and barroom brawls and scrapes with the law. But murder?
Did you have anything at all to do with the deaths of Dyke and Karen Rhoads?
No, absolutely not. I had no involvement whatsoever with that crime.
Do you know anything about it in terms of who did?
I wished I did. I truly wished I did.
How would you describe Randy?
Oh, like a big old huggable puppy dog. Randy and I have always been terribly, terribly, terribly close.
Not surprisingly, Randy Steidle's mother, Bobby, has believed in her son's innocence from the start.
He said, "No, Mom, you know I couldn't do anything that horrible."
Hello. She's kind of the den mom of this project.
It was Bobby Steidle who pestered Protus to take on Randy's case.
You know, to her, I think we're a hope. It's sort of this hope that if there's something to be found, that we might be able to somehow find it.
I've always had a lot of questions to ask the kids.
Well, you guys certainly need a break. Bobby sort of pushed me over the line and convinced me to do it.
His students are looking into Herb Whitlock's case as well.
As long as I breathe, I'll never accept what's been done to me. So I'm just stuck, anger and depression.
How did this happen to you?
My lifestyle left me wide open to be targeted for something like this.
What do you mean your lifestyle?
Pretty much running around drinking most of the time, a tavern life, whatever.
Not only does Whitlock, like Steidle, deny committing the murders.
Did you kill Dyke and Karen Rhoads?
Absolutely not.
Did you know anything about who did?
If I did, I wouldn't be here.
They both say they didn't even know the victims.
Did you know Dyke and Karen Rhoads?
No, I didn't.
Did you know who he was?
No, I honestly did not.
And Karen?
I'd seen her once in my life, and I think around the holidays in a friendly tavern.
With no forensic evidence, only the eyewitnesses, Deborah Reinbold and Darrell Harrington, ever directly linked the two men to the crime.
It did not happen the way that the state's witnesses said that it did.
Harrington's story put the murders at shortly after midnight. The students zero in on that.
Hi, is Donnie there?
And find a new witness.
Hi, this is Kirsten.
A witness who was never interviewed, who was a childhood friend of Dyke Rhoads, known him for almost his entire life.
We're here with Donnie Alexander. It's February 13th. He's pretty sure about what he saw.
Donnie Alexander was one of the last people to see the Rhoads alive in the friendly bar.
Show me the booth you were talking about.
It's this one right here.
So who was sitting where?
Dyke and Karen were sitting there. I was sitting right here, just talking, laughing.
Which would have been when?
Oh, just probably about quarter after 12, 20 after 12, probably.
That's the time eyewitness Darrell Harrington told police he was at the Rhoads' house.
So how, if they're at a tavern at 12:15, do they manage to stop drinking, pay the bar bill, get to their house, get unclothed, get into bed, fall asleep, and get stabbed?
And roughly 12:15 is when Harrington says he heard Karen
Yelling and screaming.
screaming, "Please don't kill me."
I don't recall any yells, screams.
Ben Light, who then lived just across the street, heard nothing.
You could hear a pin drop 2 blocks away.
The police never interviewed him. The students found Light in Pittsburgh, where he is now a doctor.
And this is the location of that.
But in July of 1986, he was a Paris teenager, up late that night.
Well, it was Saturday, July 5th. I remember being out here on the porch from about 11:30 to 1:30.
During the very time Darrell Harrington says Karen was screaming.
You would think that with the house located just 100 yards away or less, we would have heard something.
What these new statements by Ben Light and by Donnie Alexander indicate is that this crime occurred much later in the night at a time when Randy Steidle and Herb Whitlock were nowhere near the scene.
And there's one other thing that doesn't quite add up. Harrington told police that after the murders, he was standing here by what was then the Rhoads garage with Randy Steidle. Deborah Reinbold also says she stood here with Randy Steidle. Both eyewitnesses saw Randy Steidle, but remarkably, they never saw each other.
You know, the fact that they're both there but that they don't see each other, to me, that just didn't make any sense at all.
It could have happened that way. As a matter of fact, must have happened that way.
Former prosecutor Michael McFatridge.
They both say, though, that they saw Randy Steidle in the back of the house, and yet they never see each other.
Yeah. There's no lights on in the house.
Behind the house. They both say they saw Randy Steidle there.
Right.
So what's the explanation for that?
That argument was presented at trial to two different juries by two different defense attorneys. The juries found the defendants guilty.
McFatridge may not find it odd that his witnesses never saw one another, but Deborah Reinbold sure does.
I thought somebody's made this up, somebody's lost their friggin' mind, this is the town drunk. There is no way this man was there.
But now there are questions about Deborah Reinbold's eyewitness account. Was she really there?
I think there were a lot of things that didn't add up.
That's next on 48 Hours.
They call me Mother Nature. I'm a plant nut. Aren't they beautiful? Look how fresh they are. You can start with a plain flat field. This has got potential. We can create a Garden of Eden right there. Ta-da! These just came in today from a local grower. We have a guarantee on all of our plants 1 year. I take pride in the level of customer service that I give to you. What makes Home Depot different than everybody else is our customer service. It's great customer service.
The Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
Mom, it's ready.
A 48 Hours mystery, impossible mission, will continue.
Wake up to what's happening in the music world. Catch a rare look at the super hot Backstreet Boys. They're like you've never seen them before. Tomorrow on The Early Show with Brian Gumbel and Jane Clayson.
Earlier, the secret biological test the Navy won't talk about. Tomorrow, were the sailors harmed? Eye on America investigates on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Join Winona, Naomi, and Ashley for the Judds Reunion, CBS Wednesday.
Until then, here's how you'll get your thrills. The Mercedes-Benz Coupes and Convertibles.
Yesterday, you could get a pretty attractive door at an ordinary home improvement center, or a kinda tough one, even a sort of energy-efficient one. Today, there's Lowe's, the only place you'll find Reliabuilt doors. With Reliabuilt, you can pick from hundreds of styles and get an energy-efficient door with a 25-year warranty. Now throw in our guaranteed low price, and this is one perfect door. Reliabuilt doors, only at Lowe's. Improving home improvement.
All across the country, winter is finally turning to spring. And now, with the National Jeep Spring Event, you can explore all of the season's surprises. Change your whole perspective with an incredible $339 a month lease on Grand Cherokee Laredo and climb to new heights with exceptional capability, luxury, and style. The world looks different from behind the wheel of a legendary 4x4. So get to your dealer today before this event takes off for the season. Check it out at your Jeep dealer.
Hello, I'm Ken Rice.
And I'm Patrice King Brown. How do you know if your child will grow up to be a bully or a shoplifter?
Tonight, what you have in your house could cause bad behavior.
And an unlikely visitor stops by a Pittsburgh suburb.
Plus, millionaire Rick Rockwell brings his annulment tour home at 11.
As they go digging for the truth in the murders of newlyweds Dyke and Karen Rhoads, 4 college students, rookie reporters, are developing new leads and uncovering new witnesses. And what those witnesses remember about that night in Paris, Illinois, 14 years ago, is raising fresh doubts about the original witnesses whose testimony was so critical to convicting Herb Whitlock and Randy Steitel. Still, the students have a lot more questions than answers. Did the prosecution witnesses lie? If so, who else could have committed the murders? 2 men already behind bars are hoping the truth will set them free, and they're counting on 4 reporters in training to find it. Here again is Susan Spencer.
There are definitely people out there who know more than what they're willing to share at this point.
Charged with ferreting out the truth in the Rhoads murders.
Some of these cases we don't have anymore.
The students are quickly learning just how elusive truth can be. A case in point, eyewitness Deborah Reinbold.
You can remember seeing them stab Dyke.
This was Deborah Reinbold 4 years ago. Not only have her looks changed, so had her story.
When you testified, was that truthful testimony?
No.
Deborah Reinbold's testimony was key to the guilty verdicts against Herb Whitlock and Randy Steitel. After all, she said she had seen the murders, even helped.
The case rested or fell on Deborah Reinbold's testimony.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give?
But over 2 days, in a sworn video deposition,
I do.
She matter-of-factly told Steitel's lawyer, Michael Metnick, she had lied on the stand.
What parts were untrue?
Oh, I don't know that Randy was there. I don't know that Herbie was there.
As for those impressive details she'd provided about what she had seen inside the house.
Had you ever been in Dyke and Karen Rhoads' house?
No.
But hold on to your hats.
Were you there the night of the murders?
No.
Here's what Deborah Reinbold says today.
He says, had you ever been to the Rhoads house before? You say no. Were you there the night of the murders? No. At the beginning of this tape, you hold up your hand, you take an oath. This is absolutely true.
And I understand that. I understand I did that. And I shouldn't have did that.
In a head-spinning reversal, Deborah Reinbold now says she lied on the tape, that her original eyewitness account of being there at the scene of the crime was and is true. Is it? By our count, over the years, Deborah Reinbold has changed her story 6 times.
But why have you changed your story so many times?
Basically, wanting to get out of this, just wanting it over. The bottom line is, I can't change a story that's true.
Well, you have several times.
And keep it changed, is what I'm saying.
You know, when you look at the crime scene and you
Bill
look at
Clutter, an investigator working on Randy Steitel's case, thinks he has proof, beyond her various accounts, that Deborah Reinbold never saw the murders. Remember the broken lamp?
the prosecution used the lamp as the centerpiece of their evidence, corroborating Deborah Reinbold's account of what happened this night.
And it made her believable.
It made her believable.
Reinbold testified the lamp was broken when she got to the Rhoads' bedroom.
It was broken before the fire.
Yeah.
After the fire, black soot covered the crime scene.
It's absolutely white.
It's absolutely white. It's bone white.
You're contending that if the lamp had been broken, the inside of it, the broken pieces would have had soot on them.
It would have had soot on it.
So Deborah Reinbold couldn't possibly have seen it broken.
She could not have seen a broken lamp.
How could that have happened?
I have no clue.
But 4 years ago, Reinbold did have a clue.
And they come up with, well, there was a broken vase or a broken lamp there. And then I'd say, well, okay, so there was.
She said the police fed her the information about the lamp.
But as far as them suggesting details to you, you're saying now, even though on this tape you said they did that, you're saying now they never did that.
No, nothing was
Not about
suggested to
the
me.
lamp or the knife or anything else.
But Steidel's attorney has another reason to doubt Deborah Reinbold.
The knife that Deborah Reinbold provided had a blade that was 5 inches long.
The supposed murder weapon.
There were 6.5-inch stab wounds that caused a great deal of internal injuries.
Defense consultant Dr. Michael Baden, formerly New York City's chief medical examiner, has a real problem with the depth of those wounds.
The Reinbold knife couldn't have made many of the wounds, and it could not have made the severest wounds.
Former prosecutor McFatridge dismisses the lamp, the knife, the recantations as in any way significant.
There's no concrete evidence, that sits there and said, well, these guys didn't do it. I mean, they did it. I mean, I have absolutely no doubt they did it.
Did you ever ask Herb or Randy why they did this?
I don't think it ever crossed my mind to ask him.
I mean, they've slaughtered 2 people right in front of your eyes, and you never asked them why?
No, I didn't. I probably wouldn't today.
Last year, Randy Steidel's attorneys got a court to hear the new evidence. While they failed to get a new trial, the court did cut his death sentence to life in prison.
Really, I feel like they were trying to get me out of the spotlight to keep me from having my case scrutinized like it should be. Give him a natural life sentence and maybe it'll fade away.
The students are determined it not fade away.
These kids know what's been done. More power to them. Let them go out there and dig. At least somebody knows what was done to Whitlock. That's something.
Now, after 5 months, the students think they've scored a big break in the case.
The real killers were seen that night by this woman.
A new witness.
And one of them was a big guy with blonde hair.
Next on 48 Hours.
Ah, silence. So would I tell them their beloved V8 Splash is the only fruit juice drink with 100% of both vitamins A and C? That it's actually good for them because it's from V8? Nope. I rather like basking in the glow of this serene, yet all too brief moment. V8 Splash to health, happiness, and harmony.
And now 2 new fruity flavors kids are gonna love. Apple Medley and Grape Blend. New from V8 Splash.
You exercise.
Every day.
You eat right.
Sure do.
But if you still have high cholesterol, that may not be enough to prevent a heart attack.
Heart attack? Won't happen to me.
Don't be too sure. With high cholesterol, you still could be at risk. So talk to your doctor about Provocol now. Because Provocol, when used with diet and exercise, not only lowers cholesterol, it's the only drug of its kind proven to help prevent both first and second heart attacks. And Provocol has been safely prescribed for millions. Provocol, a prescription drug, isn't for everyone, including people with liver problems or women who are pregnant, nursing, or may become pregnant. And because serious side effects can result, tell your doctor about any muscle pain or weakness you experience while on Provocol. Your doctor may do blood tests to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor about any medicines you're taking. To learn more, ask your doctor or make the toll-free Provocol now. Provocol, proven to help prevent first and second heart attacks.
Are your kids getting into too much trouble? See why the increase in bad behavior could be linked to what they may have been exposed to. Plus, how'd you like to come home to this? The black bear that tried to outfox an entire neighborhood.
Tonight on KDK TV News at 11.
You wouldn't ask an out-of-towner for directions or to recommend what neighborhood pizza parlor is best. So why would you trust news coverage from any station other than KDKA?
We have the most resources, and we know the area.
Our coverage provides you with local insight and knowledge no other station can match.
KDK's experienced team works hard to cover the news that's important to you.
We're a part of the community, and we care. That's the hometown advantage.
First, she was ripped off by a contractor. Now she's losing her home because of it.
I have no clue where we're going to go with the kids. I'm sorry, but he knew what he was doing when he was stealing my money. Where's my rights?
Tuesday on KDK TV News at 11.
Here's your regular internet homepage, and here's i1.com. It's free. You use it like Yahoo or other search engines to check news, scores, stocks. Only i1.com gives away $10,000 a day, $1 million a month, and $10 million on tax day. Which one would you choose?
The free one with all the cash.
What would you do if you won?
Keep my job at the multiplex.
Really?
No.
Could you put that back, please? I1.com. Why wouldn't you?
Chrysler Concorde. Four-wheel independent suspension and a powerful V6.
I didn't know Davis could move like that. I told him to think of himself as something powerful and agile. Wonder what he was thinking.
Buy now and choose 0.9% financing. That's less than 1%. Or choose 1,000 cash allowance.
You know lead paint is bad, but did you know it can cause bad behavior in kids? The story tonight.
(412-8109), 412-8109.
After months of pounding the pavement,
I can't wait to go to sleep.
And doggedly chasing leads,
What was your view like from where you guys were sitting?
the student sleuths make a chilling discovery, one that points the case in an entirely new direction, south.
And they don't get a lot of out-of-state plates, obviously, in Paris.
A new clue that could help prove Herb Whitlock and Randy Steidle are innocent of the murders of Dyke and Karen Rhoads.
This one came out of the blue. Krista called me at home.
He says I was screaming. I think I was just really excited.
And I heard this voice shrieking into my telephone. We've got it, we've got it. You've got to pick up, are you there? They'd interviewed this witness.
A witness who never spoke to police, but allowed the students to videotape her story.
Do you remember the weekend of July 4th in 1986?
Yes, I do.
She is still so frightened that she asked we obscure her face and use a different voice.
I noticed two men standing opposite the streetlight by Dyke and Karen's house. But what caught my eye was they had trench coats on in July. And it was very, very hot, and I wondered why they had trench coats on.
She saw them around 9 o'clock, the night before the murders.
And one of them was a big guy with blonde hair, and the other guy was small framed and looked like he had dark hair, but they were just standing there looking toward Dyke and Karen's house.
And she thinks she saw the same two men the next night, the night of the murders.
This car started coming around, and it was white with a gold stripe down it, and it had Florida license plates. It would just go by. Turn in front of Dyke and Karen's house, stop, and I seen them looking, you know? And then take off. They did this about 10 times, just, I mean, continuously. Why would anyone be doing that?
And she's not the only one who saw a mysterious Florida car that night.
I used to work 11 to 7.
You work
11 to 7.
Brian Jones was a teenager in July 1986.
Did you hear sirens or any of that stuff?
I didn't really.
He was working at a Paris convenience store the night the Rhoads were killed. And around midnight,
I just mainly remember you're a good-sized person and Florida plate.
And what made you notice that?
I was born and raised in Florida. I always look at license plates, just kind of a habit.
across town, the students also tracked down J.C. Foley, who was working the late shift at a local gas station that night.
Along through the middle of the night, a car came in with Florida plates on it. I thought that was unusual, especially in the middle of the night in a town that you don't see too many cars with Florida plates in.
But what really caught J.C.'s attention was what the driver bought.
Several containers of gasoline. You know, that's not uncommon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but 3 o'clock in the morning, I thought, well, that's strange.
Do you recall how much gas you sold to this man?
Yeah, I do. It was 21 gallons, because it was in like 7 3-gallon cans. That stuck in my mind because I thought that is a lot of gasoline to be buying at 3 o'clock in the morning.
An hour later, the Rhoads house was ablaze. Paris police interviewed both Brian Jones and J.C. Foley, but the Florida connection went nowhere. Police never even knew there was a third witness who, over the years, hasn't exactly volunteered information.
After I found out what happened and what happened to Dyke and Karen, then I thought, no, I'd rather not get involved.
You think you may have seen the actual killers?
I mean, the thought crosses my mind. Was that them?
She saw them riding around the block on the night of the crime some 10 to 12 times, circling the block.
You don't drive from Florida to circle the block unless there's something going on.
Two men, not Herb and Randy, driving a two-door light-colored car with Florida plates.
It wasn't coincidence that's the night that they were murdered. I think we all agree that the real killers were seen that night by this woman.
What do you think this all means?
I think they're not guilty, and I think they was framed.
I think it's pretty clear that she saw the killers, that her observations are corroborated by two other sources. I believe 100% from every part of my heart and mind that Randy Steidle and Herb Whitlock are innocent and are serving life for a crime that they did not commit.
But why would two men from Florida travel to tiny Paris, Illinois to commit murder? That's next.
A change of heart for an artificial sweetener. Diet drinks may no longer come with warning labels. Details at 11.
The other day, I'm driving down Broadway when that pastrami on ride catches up with me. Heartburn, big time. My passenger says, here, take a Zantac 75. I say, what are you, a doctor? And he says, yeah.
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
A real gentleman, that doctor.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
Who's asking about Viagra? Someone you might expect, and also someone that maybe you wouldn't. In fact, you may be surprised at who's talking to their doctors about Viagra. So ask your doctor if a free trial of Viagra is right for you. Who's asking about Viagra? Maybe it should be you.
To me, gardening is, it's life. It's just a miracle in nature. Early in the spring, I start. I feed them all through the summer and early fall with Miracle-Gro. It's quite simple. It only takes a few minutes every other week. You get good, vibrant color, good, strong stems, and it makes a big difference. Well, plants are like people. Just like we need to eat 3 times a day, plants need their food, too. I feed the whole garden every other week with Miracle-Gro. It makes a tremendous difference.
How much power do you really need? The GMC Sierra Extended Cab has the most powerful standard engine of any truck in its class. Not because you need it now, but because one day you will. And being prepared for that day is what having a professional-grade truck is all about.
Now get up to $1,622 average finance savings with 3.9% APR or $500 cash back on a 2000 Sierra 3-door extended cab.
They were a clean-cut couple. All indication was that they were athletic, very health-conscious people.
Randy Steidle says he often thinks about Dyke and Karen Rhoads, the young couple he and his friend Herb Whitlock were convicted of killing.
I don't know of anything after 13 years that anybody even knows a motive for these people being killed.
But the prosecution convinced 2 juries it knew the motive, that Dyke owed money for drugs.
I think about the victims' families, too. I think it hurts me to know that the state tainted Dyke and Rhoads' memory by saying they were involved in drugs.
For 13 long years, Steidle and Whitlock have adamantly denied any involvement with the murders.
I think the odds of anyone ever proving who did this are extremely remote.
Incredibly, the Northwestern students investigating the case
Hello?
may be getting close to proving him wrong.
Is this Sean? How are you doing?
The students are focusing on a new theory, one that involves not Dyke Rhoads, but Karen.
Karen had told several family members and friends that she had seen something at work that had scared her.
Something she stumbled onto in the parking lot, something involving other employees.
She'd seen large amounts of money and a gun put in a trunk that was on its way to Chicago.
According to a friend the students interviewed, Karen was very worried.
Karen came to this woman. She was very distraught. She was very scared and upset and said that she had tried to quit her job.
Professor Protas thinks there could be a link between what Karen saw and the shadowy men from Florida. Could this have been murder for hire?
But who are these guys? Why'd they come to Paris? Why'd they kill them?
Dyke's brother and sister feel the answers aren't far from home.
There's people in this town to this day that know what happened.
Although Karen's fears are mentioned in the police report, it's unclear how much the police actually investigated. In any case, former prosecutor McFatridge concedes there was little interest once the eyewitnesses came forward.
Steidel and Whitlock are guilty of murder. They suspend the rest of their lives in prison, and that's just the way it is.
But the students hope the courts will take a hard look at what they have helped dig up.
I think we're all convinced with the new evidence that's out there now, there's no way they can be convicted if they get a second trial.
This Wednesday, Randy Steidel may move a step closer to freedom when his attorney goes to court again to argue for a new trial.
That's all I ask, is to have a shot at a new trial, a fair trial.
But regardless of what happens, peace for the Rhoads family will come only with the answer to one fundamental question.
What is the one thing above all that you want to understand about all this? Why?
Yeah. You know, what did they do to deserve this, and why them? The truth is still out there in my view.
And I think it'll be found someday.
It may be some time before the final word can be written in this case, but the Northwestern students have already learned some valuable lessons about journalism and about justice, and that it's never, ever too late to care about the truth. Politicians are learning some lessons, too. Earlier this year, the governor of Illinois imposed a moratorium on executions. He cited 13 cases where inmates on death row had been wrongfully convicted, including several cleared with the help of Professor Protas and his journalism class. In addition, Congress is now considering a bill to provide new, stronger legal protections for death row inmates and some others claiming to be innocent. Many Americans believe that convicted criminals can already play the system for too long, and there's some truth in that. But if we are to maintain confidence in our honorable and admirable, though imperfect, justice system, then there must always be room to set the record straight, find the truth, and do justice, especially when someone's life is on the line. That's 48 Hours for tonight. Now here's a preview of our next broadcast. This 77-year-old grandmother is tracking a killer.
No one intimidates me.
Jane was leading a wonderful life with a man she loved.
My mom was probably happier than I've ever seen her.
Then he stole it all away.
I was rendered penniless and had to file bankruptcy.
And when she suspected him of murder, she set out to make him pay.
She wanted this guy hung out to dry.
With or without the police.
We'll nail that SOB yet. She's mad and everybody better get out of her way.
Betraying Jane was his first mistake.
Tom, old man, gotcha.
Citizen Jane. Thursday. I'm Dan Rather. Thanks for choosing CBS. Stay tuned now for your late local news. Tomorrow morning, be sure to watch The Early Show with Bryant Gumbel and Jane Clayson, and then we'll see you tomorrow night on the CBS Evening News. From the newsroom of The Record in Hackensack, New Jersey, good night.
For news 24 hours a day, CBS.com on the internet and on our interactive partner, America Online, at keyword CBS News.
Tonight on The Late Show, Dave welcomes